So is it actually possible to build a solid gaming PC for high refresh rates, even at 1440p, good GPU, this thing's gonna do well, for $1,300 or $1,400 in August of 2021 when we know the endless GPU situation is endless? Well, that's the challenge I'm looking at today. And I think this not only is possible, I think you get yourself a good system. Although when it comes to the GPU, we're gonna have to make some room in our budget. However, I did find what would, again, I'd consider a bad deal normally, is less of a bad deal than just about anything else I found here, and should be absolutely solid for 1440p high refresh rate gaming. Let's check it out. So, first of all, CPU. And here's my thought process on this, and I should probably make myself small and out of the way. I'm melting. Anyway, so there's a lot of choices when it comes to CPUs right now, but with GPUs being as expensive as they are, and I'm targeting this build at 1440p, I think that it makes a lot of sense to not overspend on the CPU. Which means when we scroll through prices right now, even though something like the 5600X is a fantastic gaming CPU and isn't crazy expensive, you can actually spend much less than this and get yourself a solid gaming experience with the Intel Core i5 10400F. This thing actually delivers very, very solid gaming performance for $150. I'm gonna base the build around this. And that's gonna save us a huge amount of our budget. And if you're like, wait, that's not a good enough, a 10400, really? Well, okay, look at its performance relative to some other chips. This is over at Tech Power Up, and so well, first of all, we can look relative to other chips. This thing is, for example, slightly better on average than my personal 9600K, because the 10400F actually does 6-core 12-thread, and mine only goes 6-core, no hyper-threading. This thing's performing on average better in games than a 3900X because you don't need those extra CPUs. It's performing better than a 2700X. You know, this thing is a solid performer when it comes to gaming. And if we want to look at what do we actually need it to deliver, let's look at a game like Battlefield 5. Well, in Battlefield 5, could this deliver 144 frames per second if that was your monitor refresh rate that you were going for? It looks like it can. It's getting 143.7 frames per second average. This thing can get the job done. And any game we're looking at, I think we're getting over 100 frames per second average in any of these major games that were tested. So no matter where we're looking here, this thing can deliver high refresh rate gaming in today's titles. So sure, you might be like, well, in the future, I might want 8 cores. Well, okay, fine. But we do need to make room in our budget to allow for GPU prices right now. So I'm going with the 10400F. I think right now it delivers by far the best value for a gaming CPU. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now here's the thing. This actually does come with a stock CPU cooler. And I've looked up reviews, and the thing will run on the stock CPU cooler. So I'm gonna argue that you could throw on a cheapo cooler here, but if I'm trying to keep this build around $1,300 and get the GPU that I want in here, I'm gonna say, for now, let's go with that stock cooler. And if you ever absolutely hated it and wanted to throw on a better cooler later, you can do that later. You don't have to do it right now. People are gonna argue, this is gonna get some hate in the comment section. I'm saying go with the stock cooler here if you're on a tight budget. If you're not on a tight budget, throw in a cooler. All right, also this thing doesn't really overclock, right? I don't think this is overclockable. So if it runs, maybe it'll have a noisy fan. Temperatures will be a little high, but I don't think it's gonna be throttling. Now, motherboard. So we need a compatible motherboard. And again, I'm looking at low price. So I'm going, what kind of low price motherboard can we get for this thing? I think a B560 would be a good chipset to go with. And so we do have an ASRock here with some reasonable reviews for $100. I'm just gonna throw this in here, but I'm gonna say, I think You might want to play around when you're actually buying this thing and see what the best deal you can get on a compatible motherboard is. Again, I'm not looking for any particular motherboard features, so I just want it to be compatible and not too expensive. B560 seems like a good chipset for that, in my opinion. Now, memory. Once again, I don't want to break the bank here, but I also don't recommend going below 16 gigabytes. I think 16 gigabytes is still good, so we're going to search for 2x8, and we're going to search for some low prices, and we are going to see if something doesn't look completely awful. So, like, we could get one for $62 here, but that's $2,400. Although I'm not sure if our motherboard's even gonna support much faster than that. Is there anything slightly better for, you know what? Since it's only $2 or $3 more to get DDR3000, and this has a reasonable number of 5-star reviews on it, I'm just gonna go ahead and plop this one in. This is another place where prices are gonna fluctuate, and when you're actually doing this build, you might wanna find something else here. This isn't the greatest memory of all time, but this can't really, I don't think can really overclock it anyway or anything. All right, so now let's jump into storage. Again, we're trying to save money, but at the same time, I don't recommend getting something other than an SSD. You don't want just a hard drive. And I also think it's dumb to get 500 gigabytes. You should get a terabyte because games are big these days. You can always add in more storage or like a big actual hard drive at some point in the future. But I'm going to be searching for drives that are at least an SSD. You know what? Let's look for an NVMe SSD. And we are going to look for at least a gigabyte and for somewhat reasonable reviews. This thing doesn't need to be the best thing of all time. Did I put the gigabytes too high? Let me, oh yeah, let's slide that down just a little bit. Okay, it looks to me, scrolling through here, that we're getting the Western Digital Blue SN550 with a lot of 5-star reviews here for $100. We can go cheaper, but these things have much fewer reviews on them. Western Digital sounds like a more reputable brand for me. And again, when you're actually buying, you might find different deals available, but I'm going to throw in a 1 terabyte M.2 here. This is probably not going to be the fastest M.2 you've ever seen, but I think it's going to get the job done for gaming, and we got our 1 terabyte. Now, case-wise, I think that this is a place that you could possibly save some money. So if you want to keep the build down as cheap as possible, these like NZXT H510s, I think they can get the job done, but I think their thermals are pretty bad. The 4000D airflow, I think, is a much better case from what I know about it, but I also wouldn't want to completely overspend here. And again, you might have your own personal thoughts on the case based on the aesthetics that you're looking for here. So I don't know, man. I'm gonna probably, just for budget reasons, throw in this NZXT H510. Just because it's cheap, okay? But feel free to spend a little more if you want a nicer case. Okay, power supply. Now, this is a place where you don't want to overspend, but you also don't want to get something that sucks. So what I would actually recommend, and is looking right when you buy, there's usually deals on power supplies all the time lately. A lot of times I'll see them like 50% off on somewhat decent brands. So it really matters when you are buying what's going to be decent. So what if we search for an 80 plus gold unit that's at least 650 watts? Now, the build we're doing here probably doesn't actually need 650, but I'd rather have extra headroom for future GPU upgrades. Our processor is only a 65 watt TDP, so 650 watts should be great for this build with some room to get a better GPU maybe when prices come down or something like that. So that gets us here. And now what we're going to look for is price low to high, but I'm going to skip over things that, you know, okay, Superflower is known for some good power supplies. I'm not 100% sure about this Golden Green series though, so it might be worth doing some more research. Speaking of Superflower, let me see if there's any for not too much more money. I'm pretty sure that the Superflower LED X3s are very, very highly reviewed. So an 80 plus gold Super Flower LED X3. Okay, I'm gonna throw this in here, but again, this is kind of a placeholder. You want to do your research on whatever particular power supply you're gonna get, but that doesn't look too bad to me. Okay, now you'll notice I've skipped the video card, and there's a reason for that. For whatever reason, the video card deal that I found that is in stock and has been, I've made sure that this deal had stayed in stock for, I think it's been at least 3 or 4 days now, if not more, because I didn't want to post something that's just like a one-time only deal and it's gone. There's things in stock here like 2060s for $623. I just don't feel like I can recommend that. But check this out. Now, it won't show up here. I'll check if it does. I don't think it's going to show up on PC Part Picker, but I will show you the actual website. I found a 6700 XT for what I would normally consider a very bad deal, but it's $100 better than anything else I'm seeing on here, and way better than I could find for a somewhat comparable GPU like a 3060 Ti or 3070. So check this out. Over here at Newegg, I searched for 6700 XTs, and I found this ASRock card here for $799.99, which I agree is too much money. That's way over MSRP. But I promise you right now, I've actually spent hours searching, and if you are limiting yourself to buying something that is in stock right here, sold by and shipped by Newegg or some other reputable service, and not some weird Facebook marketplace deal that's probably a scam, or having to sit there on stock drops and refresh all the time. If I'm just telling you, I'm not saying to go out and buy this, but if you need a system right now, and this has been sitting here in stock for several days at this price, I do think that this is the best deal for a high-performing GPU that I could at least find that's sitting here in stock right now. So where does that put our price for our overall build? So right here, we are sitting at $560.42. And we're going to add $800 onto that, which is going to bring our total value up to $1,360.42. But this is stuff that is in stock from major reputable places. And what kind of gaming performance is it going to get you? Well, if we look at a 6700 XT, by the way, this thing should theoretically MSRP at $480. Now, that's a reference model, so I would expect in a normal GPU market that your cheaper add-in boards would be somewhere at least like $500 and maybe up into the $550 or even $599 range. That might be more of what we would expect in a real market, like normal market, but we're not in one, and we haven't been for a long time, and we don't know how much longer, months or years it will take to get to one. So where we are right now, again, this is the best deal I could find on an in-stock GPU from a major retailer. Which is sad, but what kind of performance does it get you? A 6700 XT, now I understand the Tech Power site here isn't perfect, every game's going to be different, but this gives you a ballpark figure. The 6700 XT here outperforms a 2080 Super on average. It outperforms a 3060 Ti very slightly. It almost matches a 2080 Ti. And the 3070 has like a 15% lead on it. So it's a solid card. And if you're targeting 1440p gaming, I think this is gonna nail it. So, am I saying to rush out and build a system right now? Not necessarily. I think that this system, if you absolutely need a 1440p solid gaming system right now for under $1,400, I think something like what I just did here will absolutely get the job done. I think this would pair nicely with a 144 hertz 1440p monitor. What do you guys think, though? Obviously, I wish prices were better, but this is the best I could find right now. I do read all the comments, and thank you to my people who hit the join button. You're some of the best people in the entire world. Did you know that? Good job. And I hope you all have an excellent day.